Okay, here we go. I'm Leslie Davis. You may not have heard of me, but behind the scenes in the environment, I'm involved in just about every issue in the state of Minnesota. But first, let me tell you my big deal. And I'm not here to sell a bunch of books, but I want to tell you the book that I wrote and also some of the others that I've read, and I'm going to pass that information on to you. This is the book that I wrote, Always Cheat. It's about Jesse Ventura. It's a 20-year-old book. And the reason I wrote that is because I was a helper of his at one point when he became governor of the state of Minnesota. But he lied in order to become governor. He claimed that he was a United States Navy SEAL, and he was not. And people thought that, well, Navy SEAL, that's a tough guy. He'd be a good governor, honest, straightforward, you wouldn't want to mess around with a Navy SEAL, but he wasn't. And he lied to the people of the state of Minnesota that he was a SEAL, and he was not, and that's fraud. And he's never been taken up on that by the Attorney General or the U.S. Attorney, and he should have been, and he still can be. Actually, I wrote a complaint to the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, claiming that what I say about Ventura. And I said, well, the statute of limitations is up, because that was a lot, but the statute of limitations can continue if the person keeps committing that crime, and the crime of his was fraud. So this is my book. I'll send you a free copy. Those of you that want one, you can email me, Leslie Davis at earthprotector.org. And you have to call me .org because I've got some thieves that are infringing on my trademark. The Earth Protector name is registered to me personally, to my company, Earth Protector Licensing Corporation. And because it's registered to me, others can't use it and cause confusion like they're doing. But we've got a couple of people in Europe and China that are using the Earth Protector brand. That's my brand. See it on my shirt. Here it is on my hat. And that's my name, Earth Protector. And this is the Earth Protector podcast. First one out of the chute. So this is a free book that I'll send you. It talks a little bit about me, very little about me, but it's got all facts, stuff. I researched it, I investigated it, and they're all facts. Jesse Ventura is a liar, a bully, and a cheat, and I think he has a podcast also, along with his son, a whole family of liars. Actually, you remember there was an incident where another Navy SEAL that was murdered had an incident with Ventura at one time when he claimed to have hit Ventura and knocked him down. So Ventura sued him for lying about that. So Ventura, the liar, goes ahead lying about somebody that he says hit him. Anyway, if you want it, you can email me. You can phone me. I don't know if I'm going to put the phone number up. I don't think so. If it's urgent, you can phone me. You can look at my website, earthprotector.org, and you'll see a lot of stuff about me. I've been doing this thing for 40 years. But my most recent foray into the world of information and politics is this vaccination, this COVID, and you're going to hear this here, I'm sure, for the first time. COVID and the virus is a hoax. It was a hoax that was put together. It didn't happen in a wet market from an animal to a bat or leak from a lab. That's all phony baloney, diversion, redirect your attention. This was put together by Bill Gates and the Rockefeller Group and their colleagues. I don't have to name every one of them, but you get the Rockefeller Gates package put together this. Well, why would they do that? Why? Because for the money, for the vaccinations. There's billions and billions of dollars in this vaccination business. It's Big Pharma. It's Bill Gates, Big Pharma, Rockefeller, telling you that there's a virus out there that if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to get this COVID thing, which is a bunch of bull. There's no such thing as COVID. They made it up. It's a combination of names, co and vid. So how you going to believe that? I'm Leslie Davis. You never heard of me before. And here this COVID thing has been going on for 5 years now. Can you believe that? But here come all these other books. You know, Pfizer, who's the big pharmaceutical company, they did all these testing and think before they come out with a vaccination. Well, Naomi Wolf, she put this book together. Look at this book. It's a dynamic book which talks about the Pfizer papers and what a lie it was. They didn't have these people that were tested and checked, and it's not safe and effective. It's a lie. It's a hoax just to sell the vaccinations. Even though they're giving them away for free, the government has bought it, whether it's the state or the federal government. They bought the vaccinations to give to the people. And the drugstores that gave it to the people, most of them get it for nothing. So she investigated, had hundreds of professional investigators. Just came out with a book last month in March. Beautiful book. Came out and explains what all the phony testing was about. So these are the Pfizer papers with Naomi Wolf. You don't have to buy the book. I've got it. I checked it out. It's legitimate. She's a wonderful reporter, wonderful investigator. There are other people that are out there that you don't hear about because the media is not allowed to report them because they get paid by their bosses. The bosses are controlled by this group, the Gates, the Rockefeller, the big media owners, the Hubbard Broadcasting, for example, in Minnesota, or the guy that owns the Star Tribune. What's his name? He also owns the basketball team. Turner, is that his name? I don't recall. But phonies, they're giving you false information. There is no COVID, there is no virus, there is no disease. They say, well, what's making people sick? I said, people get sick all the time. People have gotten sick forever. I have a paper that's available when you contact me as we move along with this podcast. We're going to become buddies because with me, you hear the truth. You're not going to get it from the other people. When you turn on Channel 4, 5, all those people, you're going to get what they allow them to talk about. They can't talk about the virology, but I have a book about virology, A Farewell to Virology. Virology is the investigation by the medical community of a virus. Well, there's no virus. If there's no virus, how can there be virology? There can't be, and there isn't. And how do we know it? Well, we know it from a number of ways, but you can know it from this book by Dr. Mark Bailey. He and his wife, Samantha Bailey, are from New Zealand, and they were doctors that gave up their license. You know, that's the interesting thing. Doctors have to have a license, and the reason they have the licensing is so they can get them in line, keep them in line. If you're a doctor and you don't follow the rules, they take away your license. Well, it's like a driver's license. You don't have one, you're not supposed to be able to drive legally. So if you're a doctor, you have to have a license. The Baileys gave up their licenses because they discovered early on in 2020 is when the hoax was perpetrated on us. Excuse me. So where did the disease start, or the hoax start? Well, it started in Wuhan, China, and then it went to Italy. Well, how did it jump over the water to Italy? And I have all kinds of stories about it, that there was a convention in Wuhan, and then the people went out from the convention and spread the disease. There's no disease. There's no contagion. There's no virus. There's no COVID. So what do they have? So I have the paper. Got a whole list of diseases. You could get sick from toxic water, poisoned food, glyphosate that's sprayed on the crops. There's hundreds of things that could make you sick. One thing, you could get diabetes from too much sugar in your system. So there's lots of illnesses and diseases, but there is no COVID. So Bailey, Dr. Mark Bailey, is a microbiologist and a medical doctor and all in New Zealand. He and wifey put together the whole story, and he wrote the book, A Farewell to Virology. And it tells you, page by page, item by item, A Farewell to Virology, how they did it, and who did it, names the names. So that's a great little book. I bought a bunch of them, gave out to people, A Farewell to Virology. So if they're from, you can't trust them. They say, well, the doctors are, I said, well, they're part of the problem. They're part of the cabal. If you're a doctor and you get a patient comes in and you don't vaccinate them, then you could lose your license because you've got to follow the protocol. The protocol that a medical doctor has to follow, or any doctor, is you have to vaccinate. Vaccinations are real. They're not going to tell you that it's a phony deal. They're going to inject in the babies formaldehyde and mercury and the stuff that's in these injections. That's what's making people sick, the injections. And they inject them early on, injecting a baby just born for hepatitis. How would a baby need a shot for hepatitis? The baby doesn't, but they get paid to do the shot. So we got Dr. Mark Bailey and the wife from New Zealand, medical doctors. They gave up their licenses voluntarily. We've got the Naomi Wolf investigation of the Pfizer papers. So we have it documented. We know that the Pfizer is a phony deal. The vaccinations, the investigations are safe and effective. So that's put to bed. I know you're going crazy now saying, what are you talking about? We got shots. One guy, actually a chiropractor I go to, told me just the other day that he got 7 shots already at different times from his doctor. And people get shot after shot. That's the business. They're not going to believe me. They're going to keep getting the shots and they're going to keep getting sick. But as we do this podcast, millions are going to join. Mine is going to be the biggest podcast in the nation. This Joe Rogan guy they talk about, Joe Rogan has a podcast. Well, I know about Joe Rogan. He bills himself as a comedian, and I've watched his show, and I understand comedy. I come out of the days of Milton Berle and Henny Youngman and Rodney Dangerfield. So I go back a long ways with these comedians. Okay, so let's see where we're going now. So it's a farewell to virology. No, that's a phony deal. Then we have a person goes to the doctor. How do you know the doctor's giving you legitimate stuff? They're basically repeating what they were taught in medical school. Well, who runs the medical school? It's the Rockefeller people. They're the ones that started. They did the whole backing, the whole licensing in Chicago medical schools, and they arranged the curriculum. Then we have Dr. Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. Dr. Tom Cowan wrote a number of books, and he was a doctor also, and he dropped out because he didn't like what they were doing, the phony stuff that they were inflicting on people. And he wrote a book, Human Heart, Cosmic Heart, talking about the heart. People say, well, the heart, and I know about it because I'm having a problem with mine, they say it pumps the blood through your body. You've got so many veins and arteries and ventricles running through your whole body. It's not possible for a pump this size of your heart to pump that blood all around, up and back and all. So it doesn't. He explains in here what pumps the blood in a person. And it's not the heart. The heart pumps blood in and takes blood out and all that, but it doesn't pump it through the whole body. So I have the book. So I'm not giving you information that's not backed up by scientific, scholarly, honest, honorable people. So here's his book, Human Heart, Cosmic Heart, by Dr. Tom Cowan. Look that up, and look up what Tom Cowan says about the heart and how it pumps. So actually, I'm in touch with them because I'm having a little problem with my pump. So there's refuting the Pfizer papers, the Farewell to Virology, Dr. Tom Cowan. These are great people. But one I don't have his book along with me is Dr. Andrew Kaufman. He was the one that disclosed I think, probably the first one to disclose the facts about the virus not existing. Andy Kaufman. Look him up, Dr. Andy Kaufman, MD, about the virus. And he'll explain to you in great detail, easy to understand, just concentrate a little, Dr. Kaufman, that there is no virus and why they've never proven that there is a virus. And then they come back to the question of what makes people sick. It's not a virus. It's poisoned food, it's manure. And they said, well, what happened in 1918 when they had that? Millions of people died. Well, most of them are from sanitation, poor food, conditions in the old days were pretty bad. They didn't have sanitization and cleanliness and sewage treatment. They used to just go to the bathroom in the street or right in the building that they lived in. Excuse me. So in the old days, that was how they did it. So how did people get sick? They got sick because of the filth around them and the manure and the chemicals being sprayed. So this talks about the old days, the first one, the murder by injection. This particular book, written by Eustace Mullins. You'll have to look up some of this stuff. Now, this issue, what I'm talking about, is so incredibly important that you're going to have to set the time aside to look it up, to look me up, to look up the things that I'm telling you, and to look up the people that I'm citing in these issues. And what is it all about? It's all about that. That's what the doctors are about. That's why somebody goes in to medicine. Oh, they're going to medicine because they want to help people, they want to cure people. That's true, some people do, but most of them go into it for the money. It's not easy to become a medical doctor. And you've got to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, you lose your license. And no doctor wants to lose his license. So if you don't vaccinate, you're out. It's history. You lose your license. And the Mullins book, he talks about this conspiracy has resulted in a documented decline in the health of our citizens. We now rank far down the list of civilized nations in infant mortality and or significant medical statistics. Well, how can that be? America, the wealthiest country in the world, and we rank so low in the medical hierarchy. Another book that was just incredible, Dr. Humphreys, Suzanne Humphreys, medical doctor, excuse me. She led the charge for this book. Look at it. You're going to go through this. You're not going to buy the book because it probably cost $20 or $30. I bought them all because I wanted to have them for my evidence. One of my posters, but this is the one I want. Here's the scumbag of America, and his name is Travis Kelce. You know who he is? Travis Kelce got millions of dollars. At the beginning, I thought it was $5 million, but later on, I learned that it was $20 million. He was paid by Pfizer to do a television commercial promoting the shots. You've seen Travis Kelce played for the, who are they? Kansas City Chiefs football team. Kansas City Chiefs scumbag, Chiefs liars. Kelce gets on there and shows his arms. Get a two for one. Get a flu shot and get a COVID shot. And he promotes that. And kids that watch, you know, they admire these football heroes. And I agree, they're pretty good athletes and all. But to get on and lie about the efficacy or safety or importance of vaccination is just stupid. And Travis Kelce is a fool. He's just a stupid fool that for money, he's already got money. He's a multimillionaire, gets paid millions of dollars, took millions of dollars in order to lie to people about vaccination and about the safety of them. So there is no virus. COVID is a hoax to scare people, so they'll give up everything to Big Pharma. You go in, you get your shot, and you get sick eventually. Maybe not now. Some fall over dead right on the playing field. This book is just fabulous, the Suzanne Humphrey book. She's researched with a couple of other medical people, research people. These are the most solid people in the research world being brought to you by yours truly. I didn't think I'd have to do a podcast or that I wanted to do one, but it's important to get the word out, not only about this, but about economics, where money comes from, how money is made and how it comes into circulation. How can America, the home of the brave and the land of the free, how can America be $36 trillion in debt? Some say it's 33 or 35 or 37. Well, what's the difference? Why are we in debt at all? Why is there debt? Where can debt come from? Who lends America money? They made it up. They made up the Federal Reserve, and it's the same bunch as Carnegie and Gates and Rockefeller and that whole bunch. They're the elites. They control everything. If you control money, you control everything. And what's about is money. And that's what this show is about, is money. If you don't get the vaccinations, you won't have to pay for them. If you're getting it for nothing, then you're getting sick for nothing, and you don't want to be sick. So don't get the shots. No vaccination. No vax. Where I live, the sign outside says, no vax. The flyer that I give out, no vax. There's no virus sickening people. The hoax leaders are Bill Gates, Ravi Shah, the president of Rockefeller Foundation, Klaus Schwab, who was the World Economic Forum leader. Klaus Schwab, he led the World Economic Forum. He was a Nazi. He was born in the Second World War, before the Second World War, of a Nazi mother. She was the wife of one of Hitler's industrial providers, manufacturer, and he was weaned as a Nazi. And he was a Nazi, and is a Nazi today, and he'll be a Nazi forever. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. Who are they, the World Economic Forum? You don't know. You can't investigate them, and you can't do anything about them when you learn how crooked and rotten they are. But I've got all these different papers that I've gathered together because I'm the Earth Protector. And even the Earth Protector has problems with thieves stealing my intellectual properties, stealing my trademark. And it's a beautiful trademark, isn't it? So let me get back to Ventura here for a second. So when I went after him, he made certain statements that when he was governor, he wasn't a terrible governor. He eliminated, we used to have an automobile emission testing program in Minnesota. And it was important because older cars, not maintained properly, emit excessive exhaust. And that's a real problem. And just imagine how much exhaust is emitted over the world. And see if that makes people sick, the emissions from automobile exhaust, from gasoline and oil. It's a terrible situation. That's why I wrote the book. And the people that he appointed to certain positions were a problem also. And I have a list of them. I'm not going to go through that now, but there are lots of issues that we need to go over and discuss. Right now I'm working on this one called the Upper Harbor Terminal. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, there's a 53-acre piece of land along the river that barges used to unload stuff at, but they don't do that anymore because they closed the access to that portion of the Mississippi River. They say it's because of the invasive carp, but it isn't. It's because they want to steal the land from the people. Invasive carp wouldn't be a problem. All you have to do is put a bounty on them, like $100 a fish, and people will come and get them. They'll hunt up the fish for $100 each, and that's cheaper. People say, $100 a fish? That costs us a fortune. It's cheap. $100 a fish would be a bargain compared to the millions they're spending now to close the locks and dams and pay people contract bidding to go and get the fish and all. Just the everyday fishermen say, $100, anybody with a fishing rod. Go down, you catch an invasive carp, bring them into the Department of Natural Resources in Minnesota, we'll give you $100. And they'll catch all the invasive carp, or more than we need to solve the problem. So the Upper Harbor Terminal is something that when they closed it for delivering oil and rock salt and grain and stuff like that, they had a couple of people in line, again, people like these crooked billionaires we had in Minnesota, ready to grab the Upper Harbor Terminal was the Pohlad Group. Pohlad, the billionaire, owns the Minnesota Twins baseball team and is a mega millionaire, probably a billionaire. They got the Frank family. Frank owns these nightclubs where the drunkards that chase the prostitutes in the middle of the night do business. That Frank family. So what they needed, since they were coming into North Minneapolis, what they needed was some color with their group. So they found a black developer, and they brought him into the group, but he went broke along the way and dropped out. So they found a different black developer, a former basketball player, and they brought him into the group. And they're now running the show on a 53-acre Upper Harbor Terminal that I want to use for growing food and processing it, like growing hemp, for example, and processing hemp on that land, 53 acres land. You can't do housing and have it for people like they're doing, because just south of the Upper Harbor Terminal is a shingle manufacturing facility, and they put out these terrible toxic emissions, and the air blows over the stacks and into this area half the time of the year when the wind blows from the southeast, which it does, a little over 50% of the time. So the GAF shingle manufacturing company has agreed, even previously, to put on a thermal oxidizer to burn up the emissions, but that's even not going to help. Kids going to play outside 24 hours a day, and under the emissions from the GAF shingle manufacturing plant. So that's a squawk of mine, stealing the land. Actually, it used to be owned by the Indians, but wasn't everything owned by the Indians? Or should I say Native Americans? What's the difference? They steal it, they rename them. So they gave them the gambling license. And that gambling thing is a real crime on the people. The state wants to legalize the gambling and encourage it. The state is bringing in a ton of money with their lottery, and they get people excited about the lottery. It's simple-minded people. So the Upper Harbor Terminal is a project that the Earth Protector has commented on, and I'm not sure how to deal with it. They've got this group organized. They've got the mayor on board. Well, let me tell you about the mayor. When this phony COVID thing came along and they started to shut down the schools, vaccinating everybody, locking them down in their homes, closing the schools, closing businesses, that was ordered by the mayor and the governor. Actually, I went to the East Side Co-op, a supermarket we used to call them. The East Side Co-op in Minneapolis in 2020, and I wouldn't wear a mask, and they wouldn't let me in the store to buy my groceries. And when I forced my way in, they called the police. So they called the police because I wouldn't wear a mask because of the phony COVID hoax. And that's what they did to the people. They closed down businesses, and if a business fought them and wouldn't close down, they arrested them. They fined them. And Governor Walz, who ran for vice president of the United States, Walz, can you imagine that? Walz, Tim Walz, the vice president of the United States of America. And he ran for it with, what's her name? So they got him. They needed to add a little white color to the ticket, Democratic ticket. So they added Tim Walz to the, what's the name of, what's the woman's name? It escapes me now. I'm glad it does, because it doesn't cause me pleasure to mention her name. So Tim Walz, he should be in jail now, but he's talking about maybe running for president. He had a little practice running for vice president, and now he may be going to run for president. That idiot. He should be in jail for closing down the businesses, and I want to see him there. And the only way I'm going to be able to accomplish that is when I make my show very successful as Joe Rogan, at least. So back to Joe Rogan for a second. When I mentioned his name, I watched his show when he does his comedy. It's so disgusting. It shows not only total filth, it's not funny. All right, if a guy does a filthy joke once in a while, and it's funny, you let him go. But he's not even funny, Joe Rogan. So he's got Ventura on his show in 2016, 9 years ago. He's got Jesse Ventura on his show talking about Ventura running for president. And at the end of Rogan's show, he goes, Ventura for president. Well, Ventura's nothing but a chief thief, like the rest of them. So Rogan was paid $100 million by Spotify. Spotify, is that who it is? Spotify, I think so. To run, and my show's going to get better. I'm going to get a little more help. Rogan gets $100 million and he moves from California to Texas. And with his unfunny stuff. But he's got a good show. It's really slick. But they're smoking weed on the show, and he's drinking booze on the show, and encouraging kids to watch it. I didn't watch it. I don't think he's funny. I think some of the guests he has on are pretty good, pretty smart, some of the guests, but he's not funny. My show is going to beat out his. As soon as I get it organized, I'll be slick. I'll have some help with me. I'll be getting some money in the days and weeks to come. It costs a lot of money to hire people to help with this kind of stuff. But we're going to do that. To have all the information that I need. Here's a terrific, listen, I'm going to have her on my show. I'm going to try to get her here live and talk about it. Her name is Amanda Vollmer, Vollmer, and she has this little newsletter. She talks about it. 1 minute you're young and fun, then suddenly you're deep diving into Rockefeller's takeover of medicine. Here's her little newsletter. Beautifully done, wonderfully written, brilliantly researched. And she says, if you keep thinking it's a germ or a gene, you'll miss the real reason. It's scant nutrition, toxic exposure, emotional stress, even injuries can fit into the category of illness, and explains where it all comes from and how it all happens. And I could send you one of these. If you email me, I'll send you Vollmer's newsletter. You need to know who she is. Break mechanisms of detox. Poor feeding and other chemicals create the need during a growth spurt. Even that HIV that they said used to come from a virus, lie, not true. I'm not going to get into the HIV, where it comes from and how it all happens, but Vollmer will. There are plenty of people to talk about that subject. I'm not interested in talking about it. I want to talk about the Upper Harbor Terminal. And I've got plenty of time to do that today. I've commented on the Upper Harbor Terminal, why it's bad, why its location is good, why my plan is good, why we can grow these crops indoors in greenhouses and have to be not going to have regular glass in case of hail. You don't want to get wiped out from a hailstorm. But there are chemically structured properties that can substitute for glass for these greenhouses that would fill up the Upper Harbor Terminal and create lots of jobs and wealth in North Minneapolis. But that's the black community. Who cares if they get wealthy or have jobs or not? Except a couple of black people, but they don't have any black people involved in it, except a basketball player that they brought in that's going to pay for housing. He's going to build affordable housing under the plume of the shingle manufacturing facility. And the kids are going to play outside, and then they're going to be sick and have to go to the doctor from breathing all these emissions. You know, when the lead poisoning came along, I was part of the formation of the Lead Coalition. And they thought that the lead was all from the paint. It was. Paint was a serious problem. Scrapings in the paint and all that. But a big issue that we discovered, the group that I was working with, that I was part of forming, called the Lead Coalition, what we learned was that mostly boys that played outside in the hand-to-mouth activity of playing sports. If you play football or basketball, you know that there's a lot of hand-to-mouth stuff. That's where a lot of the lead poisoning came from. So studies were done of the soil in the front yard versus backyard versus no yard. And we learned that the front yard, where the traffic was higher contaminated of lead because of the automobile exhaust emissions. That's where the Lead Coalition was most active in getting the lead out of the gasoline. And we accomplished that, but that didn't take the lead out of the soil that had been deposited for decades in the soil. And the traffic in the black neighborhoods is close to the area where the kids play, in the front yards. If you see that, you know, back in the day, that's where they would play. And the lead poisoning came about as a result of other things also. Lots of areas where lead came from, but the leaded gasoline was a huge problem. Until that was gotten out of the gasoline, then the lead decreased quite a bit. So let's see, where are we now? We've got this. So the Upper Harbor Terminal is not a place that I want to see black children born and raised or have jobs, because it'll poison them. Besides my plan of growing indoor at the Upper Harbor Terminal on the 53 acres, all of it. And we can also produce the products there. If it's, say for example, you've got hemp coming in on barges, and you've got a hemp processing plant, you could do fiber and fabrics and pharmaceuticals out of hemp. You could do CBD, cannabidiol that they call, all kinds of products grown at the Upper Harbor Terminal. So why not do that there? What they did was gave away 19 acres to a park, to the park board. Why? Because Frank and Polad sit on the park board, which people don't even know is in addition to the Park and Recreation Board. There's two park boards, one that the thieves control and the other one that the voters control. So the idiots let them take 19 acres for the park. And the Upper Harbor Terminal is 1 mile from a 62-acre park that's called the Minneapolis Regional Park, and it's terrific. And it's underused. So here you're going to take 19 acres of wonderful, usable, industrially zoned land and give it over to the park board to do nothing with it, and have people stroll around under the emissions from the Gath shingle manufacturing plant. Then we're going to take 20 acres of it and do housing. They say affordable housing. There's no such thing as affordable housing today. There's some housing that's less expensive than other housing, but there's no affordable housing today unless you got a gazillion dollars. And a gazillion dollars don't even need to know about affordable housing. Affordable housing, I mean, there's just the language itself is ridiculous. Affordable housing means housing that's cheaper than the other housing, but it's definitely not affordable. You see some of these houses in Minneapolis, a $350,000 house used to be a $19,000 house. I said, well, that's inflation. I said, well, what's inflation? You have inflation when you have the kind of debt, when you create money out of nothing, and you have inflation. I paid, when I was a kid, a nickel for the bus fare. To get here, the bus fare was $2 instead of a nickel, 40 times higher. I see some people ride around in a car, they don't have cars now, mostly SUVs, sport utility vehicles, SUVs, and they pay 30, 40, 50,000 and up for that instead of $3,000 for a car, $2,000 for a car. So I'm the earth protector. We recently had an incredibly huge victory over fluoride. You know what fluoride is? They say that fluoride is needed to protect the teeth. So we put it in the public water, and that protects people's teeth. Well, why would everybody need it? If kids growing up need fluoride, they go to the dentist and they get a fluoride treatment. You don't have to fluoridate all the water. Well, if the drinking water in Minneapolis is fluoridated, and they buy the fluoride from the chemical companies. And the fluoride, usually, the Minnesota fluoride, comes from the phosphate fertilizer manufacturing waste in Florida. So Cargill used to buy it and sell it to another chemical company who putzied around with it and sold it to the city. Well, if you need fluoride on your teeth, why would you need it in the drinking water for everybody? So if it's in the Minneapolis drinking water, that's in anything manufactured that uses water in Minneapolis or Minnesota, for that matter. If you have public water, you have fluoride. You can't have your own well if you get public water, and it's fluoridated. Well, you don't want that in your body. It embrittles your bones. It makes you sick. A little bit as a jabber. It protects your teeth. Well, so put it on the teeth. Not everybody needs it. You know, old man doesn't need fluoride on his teeth. He just needs to stay alive. So I'm the No Fluoride Minnesota group with Earth Protectors. And we had a tremendous victory in California along with the Fluoride Action Network and the Conant family. They led the charge. Conant was a guy involved in incineration. I worked with him 25 years ago Connett's father, Paul Connett. What's his name? Connett Jr.? So we got a decision from a judge in California that reviewed the studies and the evidence and made a determination that the fluoride affects the IQ of children. And that study was done and determined that it lowers the IQs of children, mostly in the city. So he ordered the United States Environmental Protection Agency, federal judge in San Francisco, he ordered them to change the rules on fluoridating water. And that's being worked on now, in the midst of it. DeSantis in Florida, for example, just signed an order getting fluoride out of the water. And the fluoride promoters are fighting because they'll have to find out how to dispose of the fluoride. I mean, it's not like a positive thing. It's not like a chicken soup for the sick. You've got fluoride and you put that in your water, you've got a real problem. So now you've got the fluoride waste, and it has to go to a hazardous waste facility because fluoride is hazardous. So now the guys, the phosphate fertilizer manufacturers were dumping it in the people's water supplies, and now they're going to have to pay to probably encapsulate it and bury it, or they'll probably dump it in the ocean or figure out some way to get rid of it so they can keep their costs down. So I'm wrapping up. I've got about 6-7 minutes to go here. And I'm Leslie Davis, Earth Protector. That's my trademark. It's being stolen by these infringers, and I'm working on trying to stop them, but it's long distance, it's technical stuff, it's legal. They say, well, sue them. Oh, man. You know how much it costs to file a lawsuit and follow through on it? I've been through a number of them. When Disney stole, back in 2005, Disney stole the Earth Protector logo for a movie they made. Yeah, Walt Disney, the Donald Duck people. What a creepy bunch they are. So I sued them for trademark infringement and took them to federal court. And I lost in federal court because Judge Donovan Frank lied and cheated on behalf of Disney. I come along and I'm going to sue Disney, right? Big, giant company. So I hired this lawyer I could afford, little guy, newcomer to the legal field. He's going to represent me and take on Disney. Disney hires the Dorsey Whitney law firm, giant law firm with hundreds of lawyers. And they put 3 attorneys on the case. And they beat me in the court by lying about the thing. They say that they didn't cause confusion in the marketplace, one of the prime things in trademark infringement. If you cause confusion in the marketplace as an infringer, that's serious stuff. And I did provide evidence anyway. The judge ruled against me. We appealed. And the appeals court upheld the lying, cheating, thieving Donovan Frank. And we then went to the United States Supreme Court. On my next show, I'll bring along the booklet. It's a little smaller than this one, but when you file in the United States Supreme Court, you have to follow certain rules, and your papers have to be certain size and all kinds of difficult things in order to sue them. So we said that they cause trademark infringement, they cause confusion in the marketplace, there's differences of opinion about that issue in general in the courts, because the Supreme Court, they don't take on every case. But we gave them legitimate reasons to take on our case, because it's the big guys, the trademark infringement, confusion in the marketplace, etc. And the United States Supreme Court refused to hear our case. And I was beaten and never could find out because of the way the rules of the court are. They allowed Disney to keep secret how Disney learned about the Earth Protector trademark. But they cheated us, they stole it. But you have a chance now to come into the new century. And in the new century, you learn that vaccinations are harmful. The vaccines sicken, maim, and kill. There is no virus. There is no COVID. You're not getting sick from any of that stuff. You're probably sick from the food that you're eating at home or from the chopped up animal guts that are put in the sausages and other crap that you eat. So those are some of the reasons. And as we get along together, I'll have somebody on the show with me, probably the next time. I'll have a guest on the show, and we'll discuss a topic. And this is a new venture for me. But if you want information, Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Mark and Samantha Bailey, Dr. Suzanne Humphrey, investigator Naomi Wolf, and Eustace Mullins, long gone. And if you want to know something about a crooked politician, just tune in Jesse Ventura, phony Navy SEAL. Imagine how shocked and surprised people were when, you mean he wasn't a Navy SEAL? You mean there is no vaccination? You mean there is no virus? You mean there is no COVID? You mean the doctors are not telling the truth and don't know? That's right. That's exactly correct. I'm Leslie Davis. Stay with me, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Get enough money together, and we'll take care of these people. If Joe Rogan can get $100 million from Spotify, I certainly worth at least $500 million for the information that I have. Joe Rogan, that's for you. Thanks a lot for watching, tuning in, and I hope to see you in the future. Bye.